Welcome back, Dog Central, here on a Tuesday afternoon / early evening, depending on which time zone you live in. I am Graham Coffey. You can follow me on Twitter at DogOutWest. This is my friend and co-host, Mr. John Smith. You know him as John Tweet Sports. We are here to break down a little Georgia-Florida tape. Also do that with an eye peeking ahead towards this Tennessee game this weekend. It's a big week, man. It's a big week. Like, it's Tuesday. People are already talking trash. I mean, there's been, we had to start the Dog Central hot take tracker because of all of the craziness that's being said out there starting on Sunday afternoon. So, yeah, it's quite a time in Dog Nation, number 1 versus number 2 matchup. But we did just see Georgia play Florida, not like not a minor thing, right? Like, this is still an important game. It's still a significant rivalry. And we also learned a lot, I think, about Georgia in this game. We saw them do a lot of things they haven't done this year. So we don't want to just gloss over it, but we also know you guys are hungry for some Georgia-Tennessee analysis. So we're going to kind of give you both here at the same time.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think you're exactly right about the takes too. I mean, I expected Tennessee fans to puff their chest out, right? Like, I expected you beat Alabama, you blew out Kentucky, like you're playing well, you're in the top 5, like second year of a head coach. Like, I expected all that because we know who Tennessee fans are. I did not expect the national sports media to just absolutely overlook 5 years of top 4 recruiting classes, most of them top 2 or the number 1 recruiting class in the country, defending national champions, Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, Glenn Schumann, Todd Monken, 43 points a game versus FBS school. I didn't expect like the national media to just essentially fall as in love with Tennessee like they're just going to come in and roll Georgia. So I'm excited to dive into this tape because I think there is a lot to be learned about this Georgia team, a lot to be talked about Tennessee coming in. So we can go ahead and do it if you're ready.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
All right,
no, I mean,
cool.
I definitely think, I guess just to speak on what you were saying, like, apparently now if you beat Tennessee, you just beat everybody, even if you're a 31% blue chip ratio team and, have played like one true road game this year against a opponent with a pulse. I don't know,
man. Hey, listen, LSU at 11 a.m. when the opening kickoff is muffed and you recover it and you have a 27-yard field to score. I mean, that's not exactly the recipe for a hostile environment. So
take it. Here's a platter. Here's the game on a platter.
LSU was not ready to play. Their fans were not ready. We're going to see what happens in Athens this week. All right, let's talk about Florida. I'm going to change up our view here. We are missing producer Josh today, who is absolutely fantastic at the wizardry of this technology, but I'm going to try to make do for us. All right, let's see. Nope, it's not it. Here we go.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, here, yeah. All right.
That'll work. All right, so first drive of the game. I thought this was impressive. Georgia gets an early penalty. It's 1st and 25 or something like that, and then all of a sudden, 7-yard run, quick 18-yard route, throw to Kuris. Nice seeing Stetson get outside the pocket. I think, the non-casual Georgia fans know that he has been a lot more comfortable on the move at certain times in his career. It's a good way to get him into a groove early in a game. This throw, not great.
Yeah, we'll go back. There we go.
Oh, bam.
That's all right. Well, hang on.
No, you're good.
We're working on the controls. Yeah, here we go. So it's this one right here, this clip. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was a theme in this game. And, some throws that were too high over the middle and some throws that were behind the receiver over the middle. And, you get a good kind of replay, all 22 look there, but it's just not close. And it's not a route issue. There were some throws over the middle where the routes weren't great. That was not a route issue. And usually if you throw high and behind the receiver over the middle like that, you get it picked, and it almost was. So
this one that was a tough throw to try to slide in there too.
It is, and you don't really have anyone else open on the play,
right.
And it's
and it's not, and honestly, it's not a bad. I mean, he threaded it in there, but it just felt like the gunslinger mentality was very present with Stetson from the beginning of this game.
Agreed. Here you've got Georgia first defensive series. A lot was made of this play where Bullard comes in, and first of all, look at all this pressure. Second of all, way too much was made of Bullard hitting Richardson here. Like, he is in bounce and he hits him in the hip. That's perfect technique. There's nothing dirty about that play. Richardson landed oddly, but it was not the hit that did that. It was how he stepped out of bounds on his left side. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like, this is a theme through the day. Like, 3rd and 6 right here. Yep. This is one of the shortest third down attempts that Florida had in this entire game. They averaged 10.1 yards to go on third downs against Georgia on Saturday. And, I think that's very important kind of looking ahead to this Tennessee game. Florida, very run-heavy team on early downs. Contra kind of, I think, perception. Tennessee is as well. Georgia, really good job of not giving up those easy 4 or 5 yard kind of shotgun run plays, halfback ISO plays, and it paid off for him. This is a beautiful throw by Stetson. I thought this was his best throw of the day right here. You got Bowers on the corner route, working back across the field. I guess it wasn't a corner route. It was kind of like a long crosser. But, yeah, high points the ball.
Yeah, that's where you want the ball when you have a 6'4" tight end who has some leverage. Really
absolutely. And you come right back to him here and easy first down. And I think, you're going to see a lot of these. Like, one thing that was different in this game was the playbook opened up considerably. That was a bad play. But, you get into 3rd and 1, and dude, the right side of the offensive line was fantastic all day.
Very, very good. Yeah, absolutely.
McClendon,
look at that. Darno,
Mims did some good stuff over there. Ratledge played, I thought, I thought he played his best game of his career on Saturday. But, the theme here for me on this drive is, like, I think you're 5 plays in here and you've got 3 targets to the tight ends. And, that's what you want to see. As you kind of keep moving down the field here, red zone has been a thing we've talked about a lot on the show this year. Going back to that Missouri game, and Georgia wasn't great in the red zone against Auburn either. They were fantastic in the red zone on this day. This is an awesome play call. I love seeing Dylan Bell get involved. You've got your guys out there lead blocking, and then Georgia was great in short yardage. They were like every kind of short yardage situation, they stepped up to the plate.
And this Dylan Bell route right here, if you're a more seasoned wide receiver, not to diminish anything that Dylan did, but like, you cut that up and that's a touchdown too. That's just a great play call on 2nd and 7 from the 11.
Absolutely. Yeah. Monken was really in his bag on Saturday. Like,
very much
Georgia, just the offense opened up considerably versus what we've seen over most of the season to this point. Again, first down, gain of 1, you get them in 2nd and 9, you force a check down. Now you got them in 3rd and 11. They get a penalty, false start. Now it's 3rd and 16. And you get to bring Jalen Carter on the field and let him tee off. And, this kind of, Florida did a good job of turning this play from nothing into something. One key to look at right there is that's 11, Jalon Walker. I'm not sure if it's Jalen or Jalon, but either way, I think he's going to be very important next Saturday with Nolan Smith out of the lineup. Looks like we skipped ahead a little bit here.
I tried to go back a little bit for Jalon, but yeah, He's going to be really important this weekend for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, we'll talk more about the whole Nolan Smith issue later, but it's just he's key. But yeah, here we go, man. I mean, again, Bowers, like play action, get him moving across the formation on this little kind of just flat route. Like those are easy yards. We didn't see many screens in this game. Stetson Bennett's average depth of target on Saturday was huge. It was like over 13 yards, if I'm not mistaken. That was by far his longest of the year. 13 and a half yards on Saturday was his average depth of target. It had been around 7, 8 most of the season. And Dajon Edwards, dude, like
9
running
yards.
through tackles. Yeah.
I mean, it was truly what Dajon did was truly. I mean, if you have any concern about the run game, let's skip way ahead. Watching him play on Saturday was huge. All right, yeah, I skipped way ahead. This is producer Josh would never let this happen.
It's all right. Just let it roll. But yeah, I mean, again, right side of the line there. This time Mims is in with McClendon at left tackle. And they're just, Darnell again is just like they're just coming down and they're blocking down and they're sealing off Florida's edge rushers and making things very easy for the running backs. I mean, that's one thing here is like how much improvement we've seen over this offensive line from this offensive line over the last month has been pretty insane. Dude, like Darnell and that's so insane.
He's just like it truly should not be allowed for
no. And I mean, I think like you hear, you have here back-to-back tempo kind of touchdown drives where Georgia is flying down the field, and the big commonality is tight ends, right? Like you're throwing to your tight ends, and if I'm not mistaken, I think these two, I think Washington had 6 targets in this game. Bowers had 8 targets in this game. That's 14 total. That's by far the most that they've had as a pair this year. It's by far the most either of them have had as individuals. And when we talk about opening the playbook, like that's a big part of it, right? Is, those guys are weapons, and now Georgia is in a spot to where they're going to just, I think, really unleash those guys and use them in some interesting ways that we maybe have not seen so far this year, but have all been waiting for. Again, 3rd and long, you get back there and you put, that there's Walker again coming up the middle, puts a good hit on Richardson.
And I think, and I think that's something worth talking about, right? Is like the pressure that Georgia was able to put on Richardson. Like it was not insignificant.
No.
People were talking about sacks, but Kirby Smart has already said this year that's not the game anymore, right? The game is pressure and disruptive chaos. Man, what a catch! That was such a good. That was just a play by the DB. I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to be an interception for Stetson, but that was not an interception for Stetson. He threw a good ball, and the DB
just great ball.
I mean, look at that. That's a great ball, and the DB just made an absolute heck of a play.
He did, yeah. And then the pressure thing you're talking about, Georgia had 34 pressures on Saturday. This is by far the most they've had this year. And it's because Florida's the first team that's actually tried to drop back and pass on them. Great play. Christopher Smith, 1 pass rush opportunity in this game.
There was.
One, that's basically a sack, guys, because it's intentional grounding. Now you got him in 2nd and 23. Like the other thing I would say is for Georgia coming off this game, trying to sack Hendon Hooker is going to feel easy. Like Georgia's had to play Bo Nix and Anthony Richardson this year as a defensive line. Like Those are
Well,
the two
and
hardest quarterbacks to sack in
and
college
Robbie
football.
Ashford, which, like, again,
Yeah,
Robbie Ashford, which, like, again,
yeah.
Robbie Ashford was just he was doing nothing but I mean, he threw the ball away like 20 something times. But they have played quarterbacks who have
This was such a
absolutely
perfect
yeah.
ball, man.
Oh,
That's a
I hate
touch.
it.
Like I don't think
Yeah,
the collision that was coming between
yeah,
Darnell and that safety
yeah. I
or
mean, look,
defender number
yeah,
8 there in the open field.
yeah,
It was going to be epic. But I
yeah.
think that's I think that's an 80-yard touchdown pass if he
Yeah, I mean, if
catches it.
you look behind him, there's absolutely no one there. You have to break a tackle with that guy and then outrun everybody else, which Darnell, I believe, could absolutely have done that.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I thought Stetson on Saturday, like he started pressing at times,
Mhm.
but like I do think there were things he should have done better, and we're going to talk about them as they happen.
Yeah.
Like I saw a lot of people be like, "Well, that's a this play to Bowers, like that's a bullshit play, basically." Like, well, dude, like the play before, two plays before, he throws a dime to his other
Yeah.
tight end that should,
Right.
it's like that was kind of the luck and karma balancing out, in my opinion. But
Correct.
I do think you know, McConkey has a drop coming up here later
Mhm.
in the half. Like Darnell had a couple drops.
Yeah.
Blaylock, it's not a drop, but he gets the ball. Like his receivers got to help him out a little bit because I do think as a quarterback, when you're throwing perfect balls and
Mhm.
it's still not turning into big plays, like
Yeah.
you have a tendency to press a little bit and you have a tendency to maybe like try and aim the ball too much to feel like I gotta deliver every pass perfectly or we're not going to complete them. So
Yeah.
I hope they can get in a nice groove this week and just
Yeah.
he feels confident in these guys going into Saturday and those guys can make the plays they need to make.
Yeah, I mean, Stetson had, he had 3 turnover-worthy plays, had 3 big-time throws, and had 3 or 4 drops, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's in a high-powered offense where, Georgia fans have been asking to throw the ball 30 times a game. Like, you're
Yeah.
gonna have those types of games happen. The drops you just can't have. Yeah,
That was almost
yeah.
bad. Yeah. And I mean, here you get more pressure.
Oh,
That's a
sorry.
sack against anybody else.
Yeah.
No, you're good. I mean, yeah, one thing I was to say is Chambliss 32 is in the game there. Like,
Yeah.
this is after Nolan Smith has gone out, but like this is a play that Nolan Smith makes
Absolutely.
more
You
times
gotta
than not.
make that play there.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, a lot of Florida's offensive success in the second half of this game came off
Mhm.
picking on Chambliss.
Mm.
But, dude, I mean, this one thing I will say is Georgia busted some coverages in this game, and they can't do that against Tennessee.
Yeah.
There's almost a level of comfort.
Yeah.
That
This one right
comes
here
from
too, Graham. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. This is where they get washed inside, don't set the edge. Richardson, he makes a fortunately he makes a terrible decision to throw the ball, but he had a lot of grass there because those guys collapse, and that's the kind of pressure that you have to be able to get. You got to be able to get them down, right?
Yeah, you got to
Um,
wrap up and
yeah,
tackle. I
yeah,
mean, like, I don't, just hold on for dear life. Don't let them, slide
yeah,
out of that pocket.
yeah.
But what I was going to say about the busted coverages is just like Georgia's been so good about fixing things that have gone
Mhm,
wrong this year that
mhm,
it almost felt like, oh, man, like, you still win by 22 and you get to make some of these mistakes.
mhm.
Kind of a gift a little bit
Yeah,
going into this Tennessee game. I mean, like Missouri hit Georgia on those stretch zone run plays.
mhm,
You haven't seen anybody hit one of them since against UGA. Like, I mean, Georgia's going to bust another coverage this year. Don't get me wrong, but like, I do think, this is the first team that Georgia's played since Oregon that has actually tried to drop back and throw the ball downfield instead of running quick game because they were afraid of
yeah,
Georgia's pressure. And,
yeah.
the pressure, Georgia got pressure all day. It's just Anthony Richardson is impossible to sack. Like if this defensive line replicates this performance on Saturday,
Yeah.
Georgia will win this game.
I think
Like,
that's an
they'll
important
give
point.
Hendon Hooker hell.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I think, I will say this. I don't think, I mean, Hendon Hooker is a really, really good quarterback. I don't think that Georgia is afraid of Hendon Hooker's legs. Like, I don't think Hendon Hooker is he's not a physically imposing presence that's gonna, if you get pressure in there, he's gonna go down. At the end of the day, he's not an Anthony Richardson who is Anthony Richardson is just, he's built like a tank and and has good feet. I mean, just a very different type of quarterback.
By the way, this is a great play. I thought Billard played a really, really good game on Saturday. He was fantastic in coverage. While we were talking, the long bomb from Richardson to Shorter over Ringo came.
Yeah.
At the time, I was a little frustrated with Ringo leaving his feet, but dude, that was a perfect
good throw. That was a heck of a throw.
It was an incredible throw. And since I promised you guys we'd talk about Tennessee, I mean, one thing to note is Tennessee, for all the talk, this is the McConkey drop that I thought that was really frustrating. You've had like 4 drops here in basically a quarter of game time, and you're still just tearing Florida's ass.
You're still going to go up 28-3 at halftime.
Yeah. But the contested catch thing, I mean. Jalen Hyatt's had 3 contested catches all season.
Yeah.
Cedric Tillman, 3 contested catches all season. Point being, I have talked a lot about Ringo and his need to play the ball and all of that, but the dude runs a 4.4 and he's 6'3". He is gonna be in position unless he just misses an assignment. Ballsy call by Kirby here, by the way. 4th and 1.
I loved this 4th down call right here. Hated the 3rd down. You got to get that 1st down on 3rd and 1. But this, I love. Yeah, it's so good. You come out, you have a little kind of, almost a sugar huddle. Come down. You have disguised this like you were just going to try to do a hard count and draw them off sides. And then this beat right here, just waiting a second. Oh, I think that's a thing of beauty. Like, people just, obviously ballsy for Kirby to go for it there, but the execution was just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you like seeing that killer instinct.
I don't know what Lab was doing here either. That was.
I don't either.
Yeah, he cuts off the route. I don't know why you cut off a route on a go route with a flea flicker like that.
Yeah, Lad's, he's not in a great place right now. Let's just be honest. There's plays he's leaving a couple plays on the field every week, and it's not good. Denial on Morissette in the game right there. 23 was at the bottom of the screen. Interesting seeing him in that situation. But, Georgia still gets out to midfield here, and they end up punting this away. That, Stetson better off not throwing that one. Don't get Brock Bowers killed.
Please.
Yeah. But, 3rd and 10, I thought that was a good ball from Bennett under pressure. I mean, Rosemead made an incredible effort to try and make that play, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, sorry. I'm when I hit the back button, it goes back a couple plays. So sorry about that.
That's all right.
But yeah, I agree. Here's the play right here with Rosemead. It's Stetson had some balls that I think obviously will show as incompletion, but between the drops and in this one, that's a tough catch to make, but also the ball is put where it has to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, again, Georgia was really good at rallying to the ball on Saturday in this game, and I mean, you see this bunch formation up here with the screen, like Tennessee runs a lot of these concepts, is what I'm trying to drive at, and ever since those leverage mistakes against Kent State, UGA has been very, very good. Playing screens and fighting that stuff off. But all of a sudden now, you get the ball back a minute to go, and this is a beautiful 1-minute drill by Georgia. Good ball to Dylan Bell.
Yeah.
Gets the 1st down, gets out of bounds. Good. Stetson uncorked that too. I mean, Brenton Cox was around when Stetson was on the scout team. I don't think he thought he could he could do that.
He threw it right past them.
Yeah, McConkey almost broke that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a good play by Trey Dean on
Mm-hmm.
him. And then
That was a good
smart decision by totally. Nice to see that. And I think that's what you want to see from Stetson is a couple throwaways a half, honestly. Like that's usually when Stetson is in the right mind frame is when you see him just use his legs and flip the ball out of bounds. He didn't ever really take off and run on Saturday, and I think there were times maybe he could have. I'm not saying it's a bad thing he didn't, but that still is a weapon.
Well, and I think the difference is, right, I think when you're in this, I think Georgia, it was very clear that they could move the ball in Florida. It was very clear that that getting yards was not going to be a strain for this team. And I think versus Tennessee, right, I don't think it'll be that much of a strain either, but I do think that's probably why Stetson didn't take off.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
And then, you've got 2nd and goal here, and we're just going to see McConkey. This is a nice concept by Monken. This is kind of similar to the Dylan Bell play
Yeah, it is.
on the first touchdown drive. It's just let those guys clear out for the underneath, and really, like, they probably could have blocked for him a little bit, but they were smart not to and not get an offensive pass interference call, especially when you're sitting on a couple timeouts.
Yeah.
But and then I mean, right here, this is the last 2 plays of the half for Florida, and they get 9 of their 13 first half rushing yards on 2 clock plays.
Yeah.
So 3rd quarter, and I just thought Georgia came out disinterested. Like, Mondon, you got to turn around, make that play. Just Georgia's getting kind of on the outside, moved around. Great coverage by Ringo here.
Yep.
Like, if you go and look at what Florida did against Georgia's first team DBs in this game, the coverage was really, really good, man. I mean, like, the most yards given up by anybody was Starks. He gave up 111, but 78 was on one play.
Yeah.
And then Ringo gave up 41.
I mean,
Bullard gave up 16. Chris Smith gave up 5. Amari Lassiter gave up 0. Like, your starting secondary locked them down all day.
Yeah.
But this hurt Georgia, I thought. Like 3rd and 9.
Yeah, this was you gotta stop them.
Yeah, you turn this into a 4th and 4.
And then
which gives them the gusto to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, here, if you make this tackle, right? So you got Robert Beal, you got to make that tackle. Bear Alexander has a chance to, but you make that tackle, and then it's 4th and 9 versus 4th and 4. They go for it here. You get the whistle, or whatever happened. I guess we didn't have that clip, but the Bear Alexander on 4th.
Josh cuts all the penalties out, but it was a late hit.
The unnecessary roughness, which. Again, you take that out, and then you're in a situation where you've stopped another drive to start the 3rd quarter, and maybe it's a different game, right? But
I mean, right. And the way that Georgia just rallied to the ball in the first half, like they didn't do it here.
Right. Yeah.
And in the first half, it was often 2 guys that were tackling Richardson, but the guy that got there first was wrapping up and holding on and waiting for that help.
Yeah,
that's one where. I thought Starks struggled in this game, particularly in coverage. He looked confused at times.
Yeah. You also, I'm not going to try to go back to that, but if you actually will, you also saw here where on this play where you see Ringo and Bullard
just run into each other.
Yeah, they're just running into each other, just playing patty cake too. So that was just not good coverage in general.
No, and I mean, this is one of those things. Like, this is exactly what Tennessee's going to try and do to Georgia this weekend: is go fast and get these guys confused and scramble and pre-snap. So this game really did bring Georgia. I think kind of they got to challenge some of the things they needed to. This play is just something that can't happen, right? Like,
I hated these plays because Yeah, the absolute this is where you were really missing Nolan Smith. I mean, just on those two plays, there was no edge presence whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, right here,
yeah,
you've got your safety and your linebacker both leaning into the wrong gap. And then you fumble the ball.
Yeah, that was one of those that you can't turnovers. You cannot predict turnovers, and I think my money again on this week is Kenny McIntosh not fumbling the ball. Like that's
Sure.
But again, that goes into the game, right? People talk about Florida, making this comeback, but in reality, I mean, at the end of the day, here you do get
good
another.
job holding them to a field goal.
Yeah, you have
right
a 23. Here. Yeah, you have a 23-yard field, and you hold them to a field goal. I mean, that's in your defense with that type of change of possession. I mean, that's about as good as you can play it. Yeah.
Can you back up to that
Sure
last
can.
third down? Because I mean, we just talked about 3rd and 7. They run off right and get a first down, and then here you got 3rd and 6, and you've got Chaz Chambliss get totally washed out of the play by the left tackle, number 76.
Yeah. I mean, that's where Nolan Smith right here in this hole, right? Like that's where you set that edge and you force him to the outside, and then you got Ringo and other guys out there to make a tackle, right? But you force him.
And Ringo doesn't play this great either.
Nope.
But like Georgia, there's been people tweeting like, "Oh, Nolan Smith had 3 of Georgia's 10 sacks this year." That's not the point, dude. Freaking 15 Georgia players got a pressure on Saturday against Florida. Nolan Smith had 1 in the game.
Yeah.
Georgia will get pressure without him.
Yeah.
Where you miss him is setting edges.
100%. Pressure is not going to be a problem. It is going to be those plays right there where you need to stop and who's going to be the physical presence on that edge to allow those linebackers and other people behind you to actually make the play and get the stop.
That's right.
Yeah. There's Bullard again, man. That was Chris Smith. Sorry.
Chris Smith played a phenomenal game on Saturday.
Yeah, phenomenal.
But right here,
this drive was not.
That hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. This entire drive was just not. Wasn't Stetson's best work. What I hated was you had on 2nd down, right here, you get a 13-yard run by Kenny McIntosh.
Yeah, Kenny played really well after the fumble.
And then on 1st down, you get so this is the 13-yard run. On 1st down, you get a 15-yard run from Kenny McIntosh right here. This is where I thought, Georgia. This was the only part of the day where I thought, maybe it was Monk and maybe it was Stetson, but you get 13, 15-yard runs back to back, and then you come out here and you run this little
throw 3 times.
route. But yeah, you throw the interception right here.
That's right.
Yeah, which again is just like,
look at Darnell Washington at the 45 of Georgia. That's the part that hurts, man. Like you flip that to Darnell and put him in open space with 15 yards to get to full speed before anyone sees him. Like,
it definitely wasn't a good decision for a number of reasons. Mostly because Darnell is just
also like Dejan Edwards is a running back, dude. Like, are you gonna like he's not? Is he gonna make that catch between a corner and a safety, basically?
Yeah,
that's coming to kill him.
But I'll go back to my earlier point. Like I did question the call. Like you're not going to go out there and just line it up and run. But when you get 13 yards, 15 yards, it's like sometimes that's the time for play action. But sometimes when you're up 28-13, maybe it's the time to just keep running it down their throat until they stop it.
Right. Well, and to recap, right? Like here you go.
Yeah,
they get 4 on 1st down. You put them in 3rd and 6, and you're about to give up a 78-yard touchdown. But like Florida had one drive in this game. They had the really nice drive coming out of halftime that was aided by a 4th down penalty by Bear Alexander.
Yep.
And then that's, don't get me wrong, they all count the same on the scoreboard, but like I would be a lot more concerned about Georgia if I watch back this tape and I see Florida driving down the field over and over on them. I mean, like Georgia's defense did not bring the same intensity to start the second half, and they found themselves again after that point. But
well, and I think on this play, just I think it was intensity, but also this is, I mean, this is what Tennessee I think is going to try to exploit. This 78-yard touchdown is Florida didn't do anything.
Hold on.
Yeah, sorry.
You're right. They didn't do anything special, but like, dude, Anthony Richardson absolutely rips that throw, dude.
He does.
Like, I'm going to say this, and I've been hard on Anthony Richardson. He has gotten better, and there are plays that he made in this football game that Hendon Hooker cannot make. I mean, everyone's going to freak out when I say that, but Hendon Hooker is a system quarterback, and if you take away his first read or you get him off his spot, his completion percentage dips way, way below 50. So I don't know. Like, Hooker's got a lot more help than Richardson does, but just saying, Starks isn't going to make that mistake twice.
No. And Hooker's not going to throw that ball on a rope 30 yards with a freshman safety out of position.
That's right.
To just make a throw. Because, I mean, you saw, I think you saw a lot of that in
this is a lot of that throw by Stetson.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, Stetson, I did think after, again, like, this is what you want to see from the Georgia offense. You have a couple of drives, a couple of miscues where you have a fumble, you have an interception, you get the ball back, and you're just going to go right down and leave no doubt. Right? I
mean, plays, like 78 yards, and 5 of those are runs on the ground.
Yeah. That Richardson touchdown throw to me was the moment. You have those moments when one team is obviously better than the other, and they hit a little speed bump, and you have the moment where it's like, oh, we actually have to keep playing. Okay, well, all right, we'll come play.
No, and I thought, like, in a way, like, would I have been happy to see Georgia beat Florida 55-3? Absolutely, don't get me wrong, right? But like, they are going to have moments like that probably this week against Tennessee. Like, there's going to be a moment, where things are going back and forth and something doesn't go their way. Maybe there's a turnover. Maybe it's a bad call. I don't know. But having the ability when it feels like all the momentum is shifting one way to not panic and just mash the gas and go and reassert dominance and kind of flip that switch is something very few football teams can do. And I also think, like, if you kind of look at the dynamics of this game, I don't know, man. I mean, like, just Georgia, they did what they had to do in the first half, and they looked disinterested. And when they got interested again, they dominated. Now they've got to play 60 minutes against Tennessee. Like, if they do this for a quarter against Tennessee, it's going to be a big problem.
But let's also be clear, right? I mean, these are 18 to, well, in Stetson's case, I was going to say 18 to 22-year-old, but in Stetson's case, 18 to 34-year-old.
18 to 34-year-olds.
Yeah. But I mean, these are guys who, when you in any athletic competition, when you're better than the other team, and the other team is in a situation like Florida where they're unranked, they're 4-3, half of their side of their stadium has left the building. It is hard to keep that juice. I don't think you will have any problem with probably the number 1 ranked team in the college football playoff rankings after tonight coming into Athens, and the SEC East on the line. And, I do think there was a lot to be said around the juice of that third quarter. And I'm not there's a big difference between the fake juice and like the real juice. And I think Georgia had real juice in the beginning and then lost it and had to find enough. And when they found it and mashed the gas, 2 touchdown drives, left no doubt. And I think that's the intensity you'll see for 60 minutes versus Tennessee. But I also, I think at the end of the day, Georgia has been in this would have been their third game in a row, right? Where they jump out to these giant leads You beat Vanderbilt 55-0. You beat Auburn 42-10. You're beating Florida 28-3 at halftime. Like, there is something to be said around that third quarter challenging them. I love it. I actually, to your point, I'm just glad it happened because I think there is, beating Florida 55-3 and then going into Tennessee with, you're looking at
you need a little
12 quarters in a row that you haven't been tested at all.
So this throw right here,
Mm-hmm.
I thought Rosemead kind of drifts. Like if he keeps that route flat like he's supposed to, I think it's a pretty good throw from Bennett.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think you and I see this the same way. I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise for Georgia. This fourth down play right here, like having a moment like this where you make that play is good practice for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and shit, dude.
I mean, what a play, man.
Yeah, what a play. I mean, Stetson up and down day, but when it matters, he makes the throw, and Stetson remains a guy who, if you give him a free play, he will burn you for it. Like, he will take advantage of it. And I think you saw Georgia on Saturday when it mattered, like when big plays were happening, they put their tight ends on the boundary.
Yep.
And they can do that anytime they want. Like, there's no rule that says they can only put Darnell or Brock out wide like 5 times a game. Like, if they decide to go and do that 25 times on Saturday, it's going to be a nightmare. And this, obviously, everyone loved it, right? Britton Cox, a now former Florida Gator.
Yeah, this is
going for a ride.
Yep. A little extra at the end.
Yeah, he slaps Broderick Jones.
Yeah.
But, I thought that right there was indicative of kind of this game, right? Like when Georgia wanted to do it, they just kind of did it. They will it and they make it happen, and there's not much you can do to stop it. And I thought there were some breakdowns that happened on the back end in the third quarter. There were some moments of kind of disconnection between quarterback and wide receiver, but they dominated this game from start to finish at the line of scrimmage. And when you do that in the SEC, you can be -3 in the turnover column and win by 22, right? And I think that they have a good shot to dominate the line of scrimmage again this week. And we will get into it. We'll bring tape to the party. We'll bring all sorts of advanced stats and numbers, but how should I put this? Florida, the team that Georgia just played, has more blue chip recruits on it than Tennessee does.
Correct.
So, when we're talking about now Tennessee is, they believe and they're playing really, really well, and they're having a really nice year. But when Tennessee comes to town, they are going to be very, very outmanned. And Florida looked outmanned, and they were outmanned, but we're talking about another level of being outmanned. And having good wide receivers and good perimeter play and all of that can level the field. And there's a lot of things. Like, I'm not saying Georgia can't lose this game, because they can. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, if you are turning on the TV or Twitter or the radio and you're hearing people say, like, Tennessee is going to, beat Georgia by 30, it's a foregone conclusion, or Tennessee, even if it's a foregone conclusion that Tennessee's winning this game. Yeah. Ask them why. Like, ask them for context or analysis, right? Because there's an assumption that's happening that, and you referenced this to start the show, but like, beating Alabama is great. And it's awesome. It was a beautiful moment for Tennessee. Huge. It's one of the best football games of the year, one of the best football games we've seen in a long time. The orange fireworks and all that stuff. It was a really cool moment. It's a great college football game. That said, like, Alabama as we know them now is not the Alabama that we've known for the last 15 years.
I mean, let's cut to the chase. Alabama, 17 penalties for 130-something yards. Yeah. And they still had a chance to win the game with a field goal. Yeah. So, like, beating Alabama, that is a big monumental victory for Tennessee. You hadn't done it in 15 years. Georgia, we've felt that, right? Like we felt that with the 0-7 stretch or whatever. Like I think everyone has felt that climbing that Alabama mountain. Texas A&M with Zach Calzada beat Alabama in the regular season last year. Like I think at the end of the day, there is some perspective to be had around beating Alabama in Knoxville in a night game or late afternoon game, whatever it was. Where Alabama played very undisciplined, where they missed a field goal to win the game, like all that's very different than going out and blowing out Alabama and bringing the party to Georgia. If Tennessee had gone out and beat Alabama by 17 or 21, then maybe we have a different conversation. But I looked at that game and really, Alabama put themselves in situations time after time where Tennessee could score, and then all Alabama did was go back down the field and score. Even Tennessee, you had it was tied at 42. Tennessee has the ball. Tennessee fumbles. Alabama scoop and score. I mean, there was just all kinds of things in that game, and I think I don't want to diminish that victory for Tennessee, but I also think that there is the national narrative around Tennessee. No one is bringing up anymore 17 penalties for 130 something yards, and Alabama still had a chance to win the game. I mean, I think you have to keep that in perspective. The other thing that I'll add as well with Georgia and Tennessee is that Alabama. So DeMarco Hellams. If you look, starting with the Arkansas game, Arkansas must have saw something on film because they went after DeMarco Hellams, the safety for Alabama. DeMarco Hellams was targeted like 6 times in his first 4 games, and then all of a sudden he was targeted like 12 times between Arkansas and Texas A&M, and he didn't do well. And then Tennessee, all they did was turn around and exploit that and target DeMarco Hellams all night long. And I'm not putting the Alabama game solely on DeMarco Hellams, but I think like Georgia doesn't have that. When you look at the secondary play, you don't have a guy where it was clear that a coach saw something on film somewhere and started going after him. And then the next team built on that, and then the next team built on that. Like that's what Tennessee did with Alabama's safety in particular with Hellams. Like it started at Arkansas, went to Texas A&M, went to Tennessee, and Georgia just doesn't have a guy on the field like that. And I think that's there's a number of reasons that I think the narrative is broken, but that's 2 big ones right there.
Yeah, and I mean Alabama in that game was playing like I did a piece a couple of years ago when I still wrote for Dog Sports, and I'll copy it and move it over to Dog Central if you guys want to check it out. But it's on Georgia's mint front, and Kirby invented. Kirby was a 3-4 guy forever, and he went to this kind of modified 4-man front with a stand-up edge because of games like the 2014 playoff game against Ohio State, where they were killing Alabama out of those stretch runs from the shotgun, and oh my God, Cardell Jones is quarterback powering up the middle, and a lot of the same stuff that Tennessee's going to try and do to Georgia, right? Like shotgun spread, create numbers advantages in the boxes, get guys out leverage leading the wrong way. Long story short, like that changed how Georgia recruited its defense, and it put an emphasis on speed, obviously, but also on instead of having a safety that's going to come downhill at 245 pounds and thump everybody, like I want a guy that is going to be able to cover slot receivers on the back end and be okay. Point being, like guys like Toto and Hellams, and they're a little bit dinosaurs against some of these bigger, faster, like spread offenses, not bigger offenses, but the faster, more spread out offenses. Like they're almost too big. Like they're, they need to be playing one more level closer to the football than they are really. And so Georgia's recruited accordingly for what they're going to face on Saturday.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into it all. We'll have film
will.
and, we'll talk matchups and all of that. But I guess point being, like, Vegas opening this line at 9 is just, they're just begging you to take Tennessee plus 9. They just would love nothing more than for you to bet Tennessee plus 9. And that's not to say Tennessee won't cover. It's not to say Tennessee won't win. But, like, when Vegas puts a 2+ possession or like a 2 possession or more line on a game, which is what they did, like, that equates to, like, roughly an 85% chance of Georgia winning this game in their mind. Not of covering, but, like, I guess point being, I don't know, man. That shocked a lot of people.
Yeah.
We've talked about it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. What's
Georgia's just way more talented than Tennessee, damn it. And they just haven't, like, I'm sorry, but they have not been on the stage this year that Tennessee has been on. But I'll tell you this, the closest thing they faced to Tennessee's offense this year was Oregon's.
Yep.
And Oregon's improved greatly, don't get me wrong. Like, if that game is played today, I don't think it's 46 points, but I think it's 25.
Oregon, listen, Oregon, according to 24/7 Sports, Oregon has the number 7 team talent composite.
Yeah.
Georgia has the number 2. Tennessee is somewhere around 20th, 19 or 20th. Yeah, I think that they're actually, I'm just pulling up. Oh, yeah. So they're 19th. So Tennessee is 19th. So, again, at the end of the day, what Tennessee has done this year is fantastic. I personally, as much as I poke the hornet's nest on Twitter, Tennessee being good is good for football. Like, I think Tennessee should be good. You should recruit well. You should have a top 20 team talent composite. I don't think people understand the difference between top 20 team talent composite and top 10, and Oregon was in the top, 10, and then the difference between that and the top 4, 3, 2, or 1. Like, it's just, at the end of the day, from a depth perspective, from a fast and physical perspective, it's just a very different animal. And people will point again to Alabama, and as they should. But my question is, to everyone that points to Tennessee beating Alabama, is, number one, tell me Tennessee's, hostile environment that they have gone into and played a team with the talent that Georgia has. And number two, do you really think Georgia is going to commit 17 penalties for 130 something yards? I mean, that's you've given over a football field. You had
It's basically 2 touchdown drives.
Yeah, it's automatic. Yeah, it's automatic. Yeah, you had pass interference penalties, automatic first downs. Like, these weren't like, false starts or offsides, right? I mean, they were legitimately drive changing penalties. And so I think that, for me, you have to ask yourself, will all those conditions exist again? And if they're not, then it's like, well, Georgia has the number 2 talent composite. Flip it over. There you go. Georgia has the 13 personnel. I mean, it's just,
I agree with everything you're saying. I mean, I think the big thing for me is, like, Jalen Carter's back, and we talked about that a little bit in the beginning of the film, but, like, dude, when you go play by play of him in that game on Saturday, dear God, man, like, there's plays that he makes that he doesn't make. Point being, like, there's plays where he blows up a double team block against the run and forces, the running back to bounce outside into the arms of a Georgia linebacker who's waiting for him or whatever. But I thought before Jalen Carter returned that, after seeing the Auburn game, it was like, just the rarest commodity in NFL or college is interior linemen who can rush the passer and who can take over games. It's why Jordan Davis was the 16th pick of the NFL draft, even though he only plays 25 or 30 snaps a game. When you talk about what Georgia did to Auburn without Jalen Carter, you saw, like, Auburn was the first team that really tried to drop back and do much of anything passing on Georgia, and you saw them disrupt that. You saw on Saturday against Florida, like Stackhouse has gotten really, really good. Carter is there. Bear Alexander flashes. Warren Brinson has become a more explosive player. Like a lot of these guys have come on, and there's combos on that front that we haven't seen this year that I think Georgia's kind of been saving for a moment like this. But in all of this talk about Tennessee, it all inevitably keeps coming back to Jalen Hyatt scored 5 touchdowns against Alabama. Like, look at what they do through the air on all of that. This offense is based around run. Like the difference between Tennessee this year and last year is that they're getting 3 and 4 yards when they run the ball on first and second down, and it's putting them in third and short situations, and it's keeping them unpredictable. They're not seeing third and longs, and they're not in spots where teams are teeing off and they know that Hendon Hooker is definitely dropping back to pass. I'm not saying Georgia's going to put them in third and they had, Florida was third and 10.1 on average for third downs on Saturday on 16 third downs. Like, I don't think Georgia's doing that to them necessarily, but Tennessee ran these halfback ISO plays over and over and over down Alabama's throat because Alabama doesn't have the dudes in the middle of the defense like they did, when Quinnen Williams was around and some of the names that from those defenses over the years. And like those types of guys are at Georgia right now. They're not at Alabama. And that's a huge difference. That and the inside linebacker play that we kind of already alluded to. But long story short, you go and look at the team that Tennessee played this year that has the best interior lineman and the best defensive line, and that was Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh held them to 34 in overtime. I would say if they don't, 2 of their defensive tackles went down in that game. If they don't, they might win. If they don't lose their quarterback, they also might win. But I know Tennessee's a different team now than they were then. But it is illustrative to what they're doing is not new. Baylor was running this offense a decade ago. There's no magic here. Like it's all, they have a game plan for it. Georgia has a game plan for it. It's not, there's no sleight of hand here.
Yeah, and what Pittsburgh did, right, is they got 19 pressures. They sacked Hendon Hooker 5 times. In the second half, they held Tennessee to 3 points in the second half, and all of that was predicated on. I think Tennessee had one turnover, but otherwise, all of that was predicated by interior defensive line play. And so you do have to ask yourself, right, again, where. If you look where Georgia has recruited the best, it's on the defensive side of the ball. And then if you look where they've recruited the best, it's secondary and interior defensive line. I mean, Georgia's recruited really well at linebacker too, but at the end of the day, like there is not a place on that defense where you can say this week, like, where is Tennessee going to attack that defense in the way that Tennessee has attacked other defenses? Now, I do think the edge is going to be something that we can talk about when we do our actual game preview, because I do think that there's some questions to be answered there, right? Like, it's not going to be Chaz Chambliss, so who's it going to be? What are the adjustments that are going to be made? There is I'll save it. I'll give you a little teaser. But last year, November the 4th, Georgia suspended Adam Anderson and had to make adjustments going up to Knoxville to play Tennessee, and Georgia did some things that I think are still going to be relevant this year with the way they adjusted, the way they used interior linebackers on the edge. Like, I think you're going to see some stuff that we can talk about in the preview. But I'm excited to bust some of this narrative. Come over to Dog Central and bust it with us. This week, if you subscribe to the monthly subscription, you get 7 days to try it out before we charge. And so you can check it out all the way through the Tennessee game, through the 12 takeaways, through all of the analysis, and then decide if you want to keep it or not. And I think you'll join quite a good, large, growing, intelligent football community. I think you'll be excited about joining it. So come check us out on Dog Central.
Yeah, I mean I just posted a couple early week thoughts last night and a couple pieces of, intel that have been passed along. And like the amount of just really intelligent discourse and football talk that, not by us, but by our community,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
amazing points and thoughts that
Yeah.
folks are sharing this week. Like,
Yep.
it's really fun, and it's the type of community that I think I always looked for in the
Mhm.
past, but it's like normally to find that content, you have to cut through so much white noise and,
Correct.
people calling each other names or whatever. And, I think what we have is just like a lot of really good meat and potatoes, interesting
Yep.
football conversation with, and it's not to say everyone has to agree, because not everyone agrees, but, they disagree
Yeah.
respectfully and they give reasons why they do. And that's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
The only hot takes you're going to find are going to be the hot takes that we're tracking on our hot take tracker on the
That's right.
on the site. So pop on over to the news and notes section, and you can see that for free without even being a subscriber.
Dog
So
Central hot take tracker is
awesome. So come join us, Graham. We're in an hour. We got to end this thing, man.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think we've said all there is to be said. Join us for our Tennessee film preview. I'm not sure exactly when we're going to broadcast that yet. We got to get producer Josh back here. But yeah, John, it was fun. Thanks for
Yeah,
making it happen.
I enjoyed it, man. We'll see you later.
All right.